period from November 25th to December 10th, which is the period in which we have 16 days of activism against gender violence. And since you were holding this parliamentary session, we thought it was a very opportune time to talk about gender-based violence during these 16 days. Actually, these 16 days have been put aside globally. The whole world is bringing attention to the ill effects of gender-based violence, and at the same time, bringing comfort to those survivors or victims of gender-based violence. And that's why you can see orange. We have been oranging the place. We have been wearing orange color, gives encouragement, gives energy to the fight against gender-based violence. So we will quickly just look at the overview. We are going to start with just one or two definitions of gender equality. And actually we'll be using the ECOWAS definition of gender, because sometimes people think gender means women, or people think gender equality is trying to make women to become men. People think maybe gender equality, we are wanting our women to destabilize the homes. So it's always very good for us to understand at least the basic concept of the basic definition of gender. And we'll look at gender equality. Gender inequalities has costs. There is cost. We have cost. It's not only in terms of health, or it extends up to loss of life. It extends up to economic failures. We will also try to look at gender-based violence, and then from there we are going to continue with the normative work. What are the frameworks that are there at the legal, at the international level, at the African level, and at ECOWAS level? So, what is gender? The definition of gender, actually, gender has different definitions. People, organizations, institutions have come with different definitions. But the characteristics of any definition, what you will see in any definition is that it's talking about the roles and responsibilities that society has given to men and women. They are socially constructed. It is not roles that we are born with. It is the roles that we learn. It is attributed to us by the community. And it is also the expectations of what being a man or a woman is. What do we expect a man to do, to be? What do we expect a woman to be? And gender is actually based on the perception and expectation of society. So in all those definitions that you may see around, these are the things, the elements of those definitions. The first definition says, gender refers to the roles and responsibilities attributed to women and men by the society. It means you are not born with them. Those roles are not born. They are not natural. It includes the expectations as regards the probable characteristics, aptitudes, and behaviors of women and men, as I've just said. It also, we have the ECOWAS definition that we want to use. We're going to use the ECOWAS definition. The ECOWAS definition is simply saying, we have the ECOWAS definition. Yes, it says gender refers to the roles, duties, and responsibilities, culture, and society assigned to women, men, girls, and boys, which change over time and space. That is ECOWAS. It is found in the Supplementary Act on Equality of Rights between Women and Men for Sustainable Development. That is how ECOWAS defines gender. So as you will see, it's basically, those are social roles that are assigned by society to men and women. They are learned in the society, and they change also in the society. That is why it is even, that's a positive part of the definition, that it changes over time. And it can change over time. Whenever we see that those roles are bringing problems or are limiting our development, then we can change those roles. And that is why today I am happy talking to the representative of the people, those who enact laws, those who give oversight to government, that there are certain aspects of this sharing roles, expectations from society that is actually problematic, that is actually limiting our development. So it is a good opportunity for us for you people to look at it, because I know that actually your key concern about population is their development, their sustainable development. You definitely don't want something that is going to obstruct development. So the next thing we're going to look at is gender-based violence, because that is actually what we came to talk today. Gender-based violence. What is gender-based violence? It refers to harmful acts directed at an individual or a group of individuals based on their gender. It is rooted in gender inequality, the abuse of power, and harmful norms. The term is primarily used to underscore the fact that it is structural, it is based on power differences between women, men, girls, and it places women and girls at risk for multiple forms of violence. GBV simply, gender-based violence, we can simply say, is a violation of a person's human rights. Yes, that if we want to summarize, not to go into complicated definitions, we should simply say it is a violation of a person's human rights, as it deprives the individual or of their human dignity. So any act that you do against a man or a woman because of his sex or her sex, and that deprives that person of that person's human dignity, is a gender-based violence. When it violates the individual's bodily autonomy, it's a gender-based violence. When it is detrimental to the individual's development and the community development, the family development, the nation's development, it is gender-based violence. And sometimes we can also attach S to it, which means sexual and gender-based violence, actually to bring the aspect of rape and all the other things that are attached to it. And we see that gender-based violence can impact men and boys. So let's not go with the idea that gender-based violence is only against women. Sometimes it can be against men and boys, but statistics show that those incidences are small, are slim. So, but the majority gender-based violence that we've seen usually against women. Violence against women and girls encompasses, but it's not limited to physical, sexual, or psychological violence occurring in the family or within the general community and perpetrated or condoned by the state. What we are saying here is that sometimes it is much more than just slapping somebody. It involves different things. The fact that, for instance, I cannot have access to something, or I cannot do something because of this and that, is still part of gender-based violence. Violence against women and girls remains the most pervasive human rights violation around the world. And it was increased during the period of COVID-19. Its prevalence is now being further increased by the intersecting crisis of climate change, global conflict, and economic instability. So we are saying that it is increasing. There are many reasons why gender-based violence is increasing. One is maybe the increase of reports, because at first, women will be afraid to report. People will be afraid to report. Oh, don't take this thing out because it will bring shame to the family or these kind of things. But today we have adequate, appropriate services where if you have something to say, you can go there. And that's why we say if you see something, speak out. And we are also seeing other crises like the conflicts that we are witnessing, the issue of climate change and other factors. The economic problems are also some of the factors that are promoting gender-based violence, and sometimes even negative masculinity. When men think that the only way to show their power over a woman is to beat the woman, or when a woman feels that, or the way to show her power to the man is to prevent the relationship with the man. So these are some of the things that brings about that accelerates gender-based violence. Violence against women and girls is not only in Africa, it's not only in Nigeria, it is something all across the world. So the next thing we would like to look would be the consequences of gender-based violence. Why is it important that UN women should come to talk to the honorable members of parliament? Why gender-based violence has consequences? Some of them, we are not going to look at all of them, is the physical health, the aspect of health for men, women, and boys, girls who are involved in any gender-based violence. Sometimes it's their health that is affected. And so sometimes it could be death, sometimes it could be maiming or injuries, such as bruising, fractures, broken bones, sight and hearing damage, head injuries, and other internal injuries. Sometimes that is the consequences. And then indirectly, it could also be chronic health problems from prolonged stress. It can take different forms. It's also affecting the mental health of women. And it also affects the sexual and reproductive health of women. It might even affect sexual capacities. When you first of all beat a woman, and then after you turn around and you say, this is what I want, sometimes it limits all those kind of relationships. And this SGBV sometimes is also the reason why some women actually would come in contact with HIV. Sometimes you rape somebody who has HIV, rapes somebody who does not have HIV, and then introduces HIV to the persons. So it is also, it sometimes also extends the incidence of HIV. We have also seen that it's not only matured people, adult people who are involved in this sexual and gender-based violence. We've also seen that even children as small as less than 1 year have faced sexual and gender-based violence. And when this occurs to children, it affects their development, it affects their social, emotional, behavioral, cognitive, and general health functioning. So you might see a child who was performing very bright in school. With time, you see the child is no longer concentrated on the studies, is no longer able to even understand something. It's just because of the trauma that this child has gone. And sometimes sexual and gender-based violence break families. It brings problems amongst family members, actually. But one thing that I want to, economic impacts. Sexual and gender-based violence, studies have shown over and over that they have things that we can see. If somebody is millions of people, if it's going towards millions of people, then it also reduces the gross domestic product of the country. So if we don't do anything about gender-based violence, then we will not have economic growth, and we will never achieve the SDGs. So it does not have only a physical health issue or a rights issue, it's an economic issue. Without the fight on that, we will remain poor because our people will not be able to